Hey, y'all. Today, Vice President Kamala Harris was in New York City talking about the efforts to fund numerous organizations dealing with underserved communities. Billions of dollars are in this initiative. Here are just some of the remarks that she had today.
So it will have a profound impact, and we are excited that these pieces of legislation have now been passed through both the Senate and the House. And in the meantime, of course, while that is going through its process, our administration remains focused on additional efforts to build a strong economy, an economy that works for all people. And that's why we are here today, gathered with leaders from our administration. As I mentioned, the administrator of our Small Business Administration, Isabel Guzman, who I've traveled the country with, and I thank you for your work. Our Deputy Secretary of the Department of Commerce, Don Graves, who is just an extraordinary leader, so talented and experienced. We're lucky that you have decided to come back to public service. And we are joined by leaders of this great city and state, including, of course, the great mayor, Eric Adams, who is here and has been doing extraordinary work. There he is. I thank you, Mayor Adams. We have met and convened and talked about your leadership here in New York, in Washington, D.C., in the White House, and in many other places, and so I send you best from the President. And Lieutenant Governor Antonio Delgado, who is here, who I knew from his work in Congress, and now he is a leader of this state and really is one of the shining bright stars of our nation. So, Lieutenant Governor, I'm glad to be with you this afternoon. And to all the community and corporate leaders who are here, because this gets me to what we're about to talk about, which is why we are here on the occasion of this visit. America is a nation powered by the ambition and the aspiration of her people. The ambition and the aspiration to turn dreams into reality, including the aspiration and dream to start a business, to own a home, to get an education. That is the energy and the ambition that has always been a driver of America moving forward. It creates jobs, it sparks innovation, it expands the economy, and it makes our nation more competitive. But achieving that success requires a number of very specific things, and in particular, it requires access to capital. For what? Well, for example, to buy inventory, to make a down payment, to hire employees. And it requires access to financial services, services like checking and savings accounts, home and auto loans, financial education and advice. And what we know is not everyone in our nation has equal access to this essential support. Consider, for example, in our nation, Black entrepreneurs are 3 times more likely to report they did not apply for a loan for fear of being turned away by a bank. That fear being based on the stories and the experiences of their family, friends, and neighbors. Black and Latino homeowners are rejected by traditional financial institutions at a higher rate when applying for home loans. And this is the case even when they have credit profiles that are similar to other applicants. For many Asian American business owners, in particular immigrant business owners, language barriers limit their ability to access capital and banking services. And people who live in rural communities, including many Native Americans, often lack access to traditional financial services of any kind. So like many of you here today, I have worked for years to address these disparities. In fact, one of the last bits of work that I did when I was in the United States Senate was to team up with Leader Chuck Schumer, Senator Mark Warner, Senator Cory Booker, and Chairwoman Maxine Waters to invest $12 billion in community lenders.
$12 billion, nothing to scoff at, Reese.
And, you know, this is something that Vice President Kamala Harris has a very lengthy record on in terms of ensuring equitable access to funding, to capital, and to different programs. And I think that this administration has been especially good at ensuring that when money is put out there, that there is access for minorities, Black people specifically, that normally isn't there. So going back to the conversation a little bit earlier, I do take exception when there's kind of narratives being pushed about a lack of engagement, a lack of even attention being paid to the Black community when you have somebody like the Vice President of the United States, not somebody like the Vice President of the United States that she's really been barnstorming the country, primarily focusing on Black major conventions, as well as going to these states, these critical states that we need in the midterms, but also going to red states like Indiana and meeting with Black legislators, Black lawmakers, and really convening people from across the country to mobilize around a lot of these issues. So one of the things I would like to see, instead of consistently perpetuating perceptions about what's not being done, if we could have more conversations like the one that you're facilitating by showing Vice President Kamala Harris's remarks and show what's actually being done. We can argue if it's enough or not, but I know that the many times that I've been at the White House and I've written articles and I've covered the leadership of Vice President Kamala Harris in particular, it gets crickets. When Kamala says that she's a woman in a blue suit, everybody and their mama sees that shit, but nobody sees stuff like this. And so I just want to challenge us to be more aware of what's going on and to have these conversations that aren't feelings-based, but are facts-based. And if you don't know, then let's have a conversation and let's talk about it instead of just always defaulting to these long-standing narratives that I don't think hold true as much when you look at leaders like Vice President Kamala Harris, people in the administration like Environmental Protection Agency Administrator Michael Regan, who really does exceptional work, and you almost hear nothing about him. Secretary Fudge, who does exceptional work as well. Let's have some conversations that are fact-based. So, and the one last thing, I just have to get this out, because when the mayor said we wouldn't need scorecards if we're engaging, that's no. The reason why I suggested it to Ice Cube, scorecards, is because that level sets the conversation, and we can all go off of the same set of facts, because we have too many feeling-based conversations, too many conversations that are fueled by what people see on social media. Usually it's disinformation that they react to and get all spun up about, and we aren't even talking about what's really being done. And we're not even fighting the things that we really disagree on, because we fighting on some shit that ain't even true to begin with.
We're talking about $12 billion, Erica, from a coalition of 23 companies and foundations to underserved communities. And we talk about that money going to community lenders. I mean, that directly impacts Black-owned businesses.
Absolutely. So when we talk about Black issues, when we talk about things that directly are definitely yield benefits for Black communities, this is an example of that. And I completely agree with my sis Reese around, these things that aren't being mentioned when we continue to look in how Roe v. Wade is impacting, especially Black women being 3 to 4 times more likely to pass away, giving birth, and then up to a year after that child has been in the earth. When we think about Vice President Kamala Harris and all of the work that she's done around Black maternity health issues, that is a real Black issue. We're talking about life being created, Black life being recreated. And so that is definitely an issue. So it's, moving away from things that are kind of like that have the propensity to rile people up, to get people really upset and become meme worthy. We have to get out of the business of that, because Alicia talked about being in my home state of Georgia, and during this primary of the governor's race, gubernatorial race, that there was a 7% decline in folks participating, specifically Black folks participating in the primaries. That does not bode well for a state that absolutely needs a governor who's paying attention to not only the things that impact Georgia's economically, but healthcare wise. And we're talking about Leader Stacey Abrams. So there has to be, and I know that there are folks that do work in the communities, both rural and in metro parts of Georgia, to really message out, and that they're out doing that work. We have to make sure that people are also hearing and seeing and understanding the work that is being done on the executive level that definitely does yield benefits for my home state, Georgia, and other states around it, that they're not being neglected, that their issues are being addressed, and that if they do want to raise their voices, do that, but they have to participate in the vote.
Greg?
Again, yeah, I mean, I can only echo what Reese and Erica have said. You know, Kamala Harris, regardless of any political differences any of us might have with the Democratic Party in general, with the vice president or anyone else in this administration in particular, I think it's fairly, what am I saying? I think it's fairly clear. Everyone, I think it's unanimous unanimous for observers that this administration has not used her well, has not cut her in as a full partner in the project. And it's almost as if the Biden administration is trying to lose. Is trying to. I mean, you know, even the news that broke, of course, in the last 24 hours with this feckless cosplay coal miner out of West Virginia coming to a deal. You know, this is major news. And, you know, there's only so much that we can do to try to prevent this freight train that is bearing down on us from hitting us. Kamala Harris could be used much more effectively in many more ways, but it's almost as if in that White House, she is not only an afterthought, it's almost like you got to work to kind of evade the vice president like that. Whatever skills, whatever talents, whatever abilities she has, whatever demonstrated capacity to kind of push that she has, and certainly she spent time in the United States Senate before she came here. You know, this is really indefensible. And at the end of the day, we're going to get stuck with the bill, just like we got stuck with the bill for Obama. Black people are going to get stuck with the bill. So I don't have any hope that this administration is going to change course. I mean, I almost wish the vice president would go rogue, but you know, I mean, because she's going to end up holding the bag too.
Can I push back just a little bit on that, Greg,
Please,
Dr. Carr?
please.
I think if you talk about politically in terms of optics, in terms of messaging, do I think she's been effectively utilized? No. But I can say, as a person who I consider myself the encyclopedia of her record, I can absolutely say I see her fingerprints in every single major policy initiative that this White House pushes through. She's doing the work in terms of the agencies, the executive agencies. She's right there arm in arm with Michael Regan, EPA administrator, with Secretary Fudge, whether it's Becerra at HHS. She is convening executive. She's doing cross, agency collaboration. And that was a hallmark of her work when she was Attorney General in California. So I won't accept that she is not being utilized in terms of doing the work. She's absolutely doing the work. Now, is she getting credit for it? No. Is she getting beat up in the media? Absolutely. But I do think we're seeing different policy outcomes and different priorities than we would have otherwise seen if Vice President Kamala Harris was not in that seat. I can say that unequivocally.
Yeah, no, absolutely. In fact, thank you, Reese. But I would accept that 100%. I'd accept that 100%. What I was talking about was exactly what you just said. She's not getting, there's no penetration of any of what you just said. And it's one thing for you to say it. It's one thing for us to say that and embrace that. It's quite another for her not to be able to embrace all of that. Because if people heard that, whatever individual line by line thing they might want to say, they could not say she's not doing the work. And I'm just bemused as why she can't, So no, I'm with you 100% on that. Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now. We have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?